Hello and welcome to the Success Showcase. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin with the Modern Observer Group. And with me, as always, is Chip Janiszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. Chip, how you doing today?
I am doing great. How are you, Eric?
I am doing amazing. And I actually want to share this with you and our listeners because as we are recording this today, the Modern Observer Group has kicked off its 15th anniversary celebration. And the first thing we are doing is just expressing gratitude. So I want to thank all of our listeners, you for being part of all of this, and of course, all of the guests we've had over the years on this podcast, because we couldn't have made it this far without the support of every one of you.
Yeah, I saw the announcement this morning on your Facebook page, and to all those people on the list, and from all of the people that you've touched over the years, I am sure there's a lot of gratitude pouring back your way, which I hope you feel because you've done so much for all of us and all the people that you've touched. So congratulations, and here's to another
Thank you.
25.
Yeah, it's been an amazing journey, and we're just going to keep going.
Yep.
And we've got a lot of stuff planned for the year, some of which we'll talk about on the podcasts over the course of time, some of which, keep up with the Modern Observer Group and Xvadio on our Facebook pages and of course our websites.
Looking forward to it.
So today we are going to be talking about putting together a personal development plan. And this is very important because so many people, they'll start a business. The first thing they do is they put together a business plan. But if you're not a business owner, if you have a career, you still need that personal development plan to plan out your career. How many times have you gone into a job interview and been asked, so where do you see yourself in 5 years? Well, without having a personal development plan, most of us don't even have an answer for that question, never mind an idea of how we're going to get there. So it's very important to put together one. And it's not just about your career, it's about your entire life. It's taking a holistic look at where you want to be. What city do you want to be living in? Or do you want to be on a farm in the country? Where do you want to be? Do you want to be married with a whole bunch of kids? Do you want to stay single? Figuring out what you want from your life and putting a plan to achieve it is so important because so many people just drift through life and take whatever comes.
Yeah, there's so much emphasis put on right from starting in school and then going through school and so on and so forth is on achievement and careers and jobs and all these material things that you have to shoot for and so on and so forth. Well, what we're talking about today is they all start with that person in the mirror. And if that person in the mirror, yourself, does not have a personal plan, then you are just coasting through life. And what I've said many times before is just the land of Sameville, Sameville, which is just letting the world that you have no control over control your life. And that could be just, okay, if a job's coming this way, I'll take it because I need some money, or could be, I'm going to do this for whatever person, just so I can be satisfy this other person who I'm trying to, satisfy and that kind of stuff. But it's really, really important. And if you start by just writing down things that you are interested in, things that you are good at, things that you want to do, start planning that yourself and share it with other people. Share it with your friends and your family, your network if you're a professional out there, and start working on that. Number one, your personal development plan includes everything. Obviously, what you do for work is hopefully going to be in alignment with your plan is, but also whatever money you make from that will facilitate all the other things that you want to do with your life, which could be vacation and anything else that you want to do. But all those things have to be there also, because where employment and money comes in is as a facilitator. And if it is the main goal, then start to do your plan all over again because you're going the wrong way.
That's so true. The money is not the goal. Money just sits in a bank or sits in investments. You can make interest with it, you can get dividends from it, but it'll generate more money, but it doesn't actually do anything until you use it. Well, what do you want to be using it on? That is key. And most people, again, when they don't put together a plan, they're reactive rather than proactive. So you're not achieving goals, you're just defending yourself about against what comes through life. Well, here's one of the big secrets about having a personal development plan is that when you are proactive and you're actually working towards goals and taking active steps, you are less stressed than when you're reactive. Reactive generally comes from stress. Something happens to you and you have to respond. But when you've planned for these things, when you have an idea of where you're going and how to get there, your stress levels are lower. And when your stress levels are lower, your happiness goes up, your health improves, your relationships improve. Stress in small doses can be a very powerful tool, but overwhelming stress is like a poison that eats you up inside. And if you can avoid getting to that point, avoid the burnout, avoid that level of stress, your entire life improves. And then it snowballs because without having to deal with that stress, that's all that extra time and energy that you can focus on achieving more, on doing more, on taking more vacations, on spending more time with family, on doing things that you love, which again reduces the stress further and it just keeps snowballing.
Yeah, and if you start, I mean, these are all connected, all these different things we were talking about. If you start by finding your why and what your passion is, and that's what you are striving towards, and that's what you put a plan, an organized plan together where you're tracking things and celebrating your victories and so on and so forth with that. That is so, so important as a foundation for everything. And then when it comes to the stress, once you have that why and something that you are striving for, it gives you the ability, no matter how stressed out you are, to put that stress into perspective with anything else. Because the most important thing and the thing that you're driving at, that why is always there. And with that, that will help you to realize that stress is just a momentary reaction. But if your overall mantra is positivity towards this and you're moving ahead and you have put together your SMART goal plan to achieve the different things facet by facet of your life that's there, and you're celebrating them as you do in small steps, like we've talked about in the past, that is one of the best ways to alleviate the stress. As you said, it's always going to be there. But if you can put that in perspective and say, okay, I am not going to let this get the best of me right now. I choose to just set this back and learn from it and do something positive as a result of that. That's where it's all at. And as we both know, this is much easier said than done. But starting out with your why and your personal plan, personal growth plan, like we're talking about today, is really the best pathway to get that going and maintaining it and staying away from stress as much as possible as far as letting it get to you.
Yes, why is so important. And it starts with why. Why are you doing things? Why is about your reason for being. But why is also an important tool because when something does happen or when you're doing something on a regular basis, there is a tool called the 5 whys. And it is literally just asking yourself why 5 times to keep digging deeper into what's going on and why it's happening. So when you have a task, you should ask, why am I doing this task? And keep asking yourself why 5 times to dig down. Because a lot of times, if you don't understand why you're doing something, you'll do it just to get it done. But when you understand what you're really trying to accomplish by asking why over and over again, you'd be amazed at how many times you'll find a better way to do it. Because just because you've done something over and over again doesn't mean you're doing it the best way possible, especially when technology changes. There are new tools we can be using. You know, back in the mid 1990s, I worked as a creative director at an ad agency, and I was there for 3 years. Now, when I started there, we used to have to get the ads printed up, pasted down on artboard, and FedExed out to the newspapers by Thursday night so that it could be there and they could get it into the Sunday paper. By the time I left, 3 years later, we were doing it all digitally and transmitting everything through, wasn't through the internet yet. This is still pre big internet, but we had a connection that we would send the digital file through. So we now had till Friday. We had an extra day to get things done. Now, this is almost 30 years later. None of what I had to do then would be done the same way. I still write copy for my business, but now I have AI tools to help me create ideas, to help fine tune the copy. When I have to send a display ad to a publication, to a website, it's a simple email. So tools change. So you have to ask yourself on a regular basis. And if you put together a plan when you were in college, if you haven't looked at it lately, you need to reevaluate. You need to stay on top of these things because things change. And we've talked about this in the past about my family and I at the beginning of each year write things down on a vision board. Well, it's amazing how many times when we pull the vision board down, we'll lose track of it in like September, October. So when we come back to it in January, in just those 4 months, we can be surprised at how many things on the board we've already accomplished, and we didn't take them off the board because we weren't paying attention to the board. It's the same thing with a personal growth plan. If you don't evaluate it regularly and see where you are, you might have accomplished more than you ever imagined and be unaware of it.
Yeah, you make a great point there. I know you have talked about having that on the refrigerator and so on and so forth. Whatever your personal plan is, put it down there in writing. And visuals are absolutely terrific ways to have that there because they're in your face all the time. Or if you check them monthly and so on and so forth, it's so, so important. There's, I think it was our old one of our old friends consultants, Tony Robbins, who come up with the 7-step plan as far as personal plan goes, and it obviously starts with developing your vision, which is again the things we talked about. What's your purpose in life? What kind of person do you want to be? What are you passionate about? What inspires you, and so on and so forth. And then you go to step number 2, which we've talked about very often, which is the reality check and what he recommends doing for that. We talk about doing this for businesses, but do this for yourself too. And that's the SWOT analysis. What are your
Yep.
strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your opportunities? And what are your threats? What's threatening this plan for you? Obviously celebrating your milestones, but then what you have to do is you have to get back and review from time to time and see what's working, what's not, and so on and so forth. As you said, what has changed with the way I'm going to be doing things technology wise and all these other kind of things. But if you can put this down on paper and have it organized in your planner so that you are hitting these checkpoints along the way, it's so, so important. One of which is to take a look at the vision board that you have in front of you or wherever you're keeping those things stored. But if you have those there all the time and you go back to them, then again, when you're stressed out, you have something to look at to prove that you're making progress.
Definitely. And the SWOT analysis is such an important tool. The key to it, though, is you have to be brutally honest with yourself. And, for so many people, that's difficult. And again, I used the example of a job interview earlier. In a job interview, they always ask, well, what do you think your greatest weakness is? And the most common answer is, well, I'm too much of a perfectionist. I want to get, because you're trying to spin it into something positive. When you're doing a SWOT analysis, you don't want spin. You want to be very clear about what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what your opportunities are, and what your threats are. And when it comes to threats, now in business, usually this means competition. And I am amazed at how many people will tell me, oh, I have no competition in my business. Well, then you didn't look hard enough. There's always competition. There's always someone else doing what you want to do. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. The fact that there are other people that want to do what you want to do shows in business, it shows there's a market for it. When you're talking about it in terms of your personal growth, it means there are an abundance of resources for you to use, because the more people want to do something, the more resources will show up. Businesses will always chase their niche market. And if that market gets bigger, they're going to chase after it more. So they're going to provide more resources. So don't worry about your threats, but acknowledge them. And by the same token, don't worry about your weaknesses, but acknowledge them. Because if what you want to achieve depends heavily on a point that you are weak on, it means you're going to have to ask for help, or you're going to have to work on that, learn more, and build up that skill so that it's a strength. So you need to be brutally honest about this in order for it to be effective.
Yeah, basically, growth is a process.
Yep.
It's not a stop thing. So if you run into something that is, you take it as being an obstacle to you that's going to stop you, no, it's an opportunity for you to do something to correct it. Obviously, when you're talking about competitors, if they're doing well, it's pretty easy for you to find out why they're doing well and incorporate what their strengths are into what you're doing to help you out too. The other thing that you do have going for you is that we're all in this together. I'm sure that we all have a network of people out there that we know and like and trust. We have our family, we have maybe our business members, we have friends, and so on and so forth. And if you can share with each other what you're looking to do as far as your personal plans and your professional plans and help each other out that way, what you want to do is just write down a list and ask for it. And people out there are very, very happy to help you out, especially the people who you are close to in your network. So just realize that you're not going through things alone. And the same thing applies to when you're having that stress. Share it with somebody.
Yes.
Help. If you want to go out there by yourself, good luck. Even if you achieve things, you're going to be miserable because you have nobody to share it with.
That's so true. The greatest achievements are done when you're standing on the shoulders of someone else. And we all need people. As I said at the beginning of this, the Modern Observer Group wouldn't be here 15 years later if it weren't for all of the people that we've worked with and worked for. You need to connect. And that's not just about asking for help. That's about also about being there to help other people attain their goals. And you'd be amazed at how many times you will be there to help someone else out, to do something that's going to get somebody closer to their goal. And you will suddenly find that what you're doing is also getting you closer to yours. It can be learning something by helping someone out. It can be seeing something from another perspective that you hadn't thought of. But there's all of these different ways that when you connect with people, it changes your perspective and it makes you more able to achieve your goals and where you want to get to.
Yeah. It's so, so important to have the people in your life to share things with and to help you out. We were born social animals, and we are a whole lot better when you're working with other people on these different things. And don't be afraid to ask people for things because people want to help you. I mean, there's a lot of people out there. I'm sure everybody out there wants to do something to help change the world because of the different things that we're in. And one interaction at a time with somebody, just doing something to encourage them or to spread some positivity, that's how things work. And you're not going to wave a magic wand and achieve your goals all at once or make the world a better place all at once. It's a process. And that means you got to make the best out of every single present moment, realizing that there are going to be ups and downs with that. But the more you simplify things into just that, using the different tips that we're talking about today and in the other shows, you're going to be a whole lot better off, a whole lot more sane, and a whole lot more less stressed out as a result of that.
That's so true. And when you're putting together your plan and you're deciding what your goals are, you have to remember that you're not going to get there all at once. Progress is incremental, and it is more important to take a small step towards your goal every day than it is to spend, say, 2 days in intensive work trying to get it all done at once. Take those small steps. There's the old adage, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. Take those steps, even on days you don't want to. You can take a small step. It doesn't have to be something huge. If you have physical fitness goals, there are days we all do not feel like working out. But do something, do a little stretching. Walk around the house just to get the blood moving, even if you're not doing a full workout. Every little bit helps. And remember that rest is an important part of all of this. Again, using physical fitness as an example, your muscles build up not while you're doing the exercises, but on the days between the exercises when your muscles are recovering. Your brain works the same way. When you take a day off, when you take the weekend and relax and have fun, you'll see all sorts of new ideas and new perspectives coming to you. Not when you're pushing to get something done, but when you've taken the step back to relax. That's when growth comes. That's when your body and mind absorb the changes you're making and push you forward. And of course, the other really important part of taking time to rest and relax is so you don't burn out. Stress is cumulative. So if you're under stress, dealing with it is actually creating more stress. So when you take that step back and relax and let it go, you're essentially resetting yourself. And you avoid the burnout. You deal with the stress better, and you get more done by not pushing all the time. You always hear these people say, "Oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead." Well, you know what? They're going to be sleeping a lot sooner than the rest of us because that takes a toll on body, on mind, on soul. You need to take those opportunities to rest, relax, and rejuvenate.
Absolutely. And one part of your personal plan must be time out. It must be recreation. And it could be daily, but it's also good to have a vacation, even if it's only one day off for a weekend plan, something to look forward to moving ahead. But you have to plan for that because number one, it gives you the time off. But number two, if you have something to look forward to while you're doing all of your work, it will help you a whole lot more as far as giving you more energy and everything else because you're looking towards something positive. So basically, your personal plan is just not just about work, not just about getting this done and getting that done. It has to be well rounded. It has to have that time out. It has to have time with your family if you have that, other things that you're interested in, and it's got to be a total picture.
Yes, it needs to be a fully holistic plan that encompasses everything. And when I say everything, it is just important to have things that you don't want to do as it is to have things you do want to do. Everybody talks about their bucket list. Well, I always tell people, it's also important to have a second list. It rhymes with bucket list, but it starts with an F. And these are things you don't care if you ever do. These are things, let them go by. Don't even worry about it. But you need to be able to identify these things and go, yeah, I have no interest in that. I can take that off my plate. I don't need to worry about it. So we are coming to the end of our time. So, Chip, what do you think is the big takeaway for our listeners this week?
You know, we were all born from love and joy. And so, what we have to do for our personal plan, what we're looking for is we're looking for personal peace, personal happiness, and personal joy. And we don't want that F list that you're talking about out there. So, to start out, you have to do your plan. And we talked about the different things to identify what's your purpose, what's your passion, and what are you great at, and so on and so forth. Put that down in writing. Develop your SMART goals in small steps and basically just chip away at them, celebrate them every day when you achieve them. And getting back to basics, if you're stressed out or you don't know where to go, I love and you brought this up several times before, asking yourself why 5 times in a row is so, so important. Also, doing a personal strength SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, that it's very, 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 it's a reality check, is so, so important. And number three, realize that you need people to serve, you need people to share your accomplishments with, and you need people to help you out. So make sure that you keep a whole lot of people involved with that and celebrate them when you achieve things. So put together that whole package, get it down in writing, and enjoy.
Yeah, that's all so important. You have to figure out exactly what you want out of life. And, the more specific you can get, the better off you are because it helps focus you, whether it's family, friends, job, vacation, kids, whatever it is you want out of life. Figure it out. Figure out why you want it to make sure that you're actually looking at the right things. Sometimes, you say, well, I want a home. Well, why do you want the home? Because for some people, they'll find, you know what? It's better for my personality if I rent or if I get a condo rather than buying a house. There are different ways to do things. And if you don't understand your why, you might not find the right way for you. And what's right for you is not necessarily what's right for everybody else. And the other important takeaway is communicate. Tell people about your goals, write them down, get them out. This way, one, people can help you. Two, They'll help hold you accountable so you don't give up on them too easily. And finally, by letting people know, you'll find other people that have similar interests. And it's easier to accomplish these things together. So work with friends and family, find networks of like minded people, and find networks of people that are completely different to share different perspectives with you. Because the more different perspectives you get, the easier it is for you to accomplish things because you have those different points of view. And remember that everybody is in it together. So while you're trying to get all the things that are going to make you happy, you can also be out there making other people happy. And that's all part of the personal growth plan. You've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch every episode at xvadio.com, the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and wherever you find podcasts. Remember, make this your best week ever and make next week even better. We'll see you then.